We welcome onto the show reporter Ben Hutchison. Ben, let's start with the Plainfield East Regional. Rajan Mohammed, he drained a three-pointer to send this game into overtime. It looked like the momentum was going all Neuqua's way. East Aurora, they come up with the victory.
Yeah, 1.8 seconds left. Talk about an exciting high school basketball game. Rajan hitting that shot, all the momentum, like you said, going towards Neuqua. But in overtime, East Aurora took over and eventually won the game.
Let's look at the start of this matchup. Now, Neuqua Valley, they're a team that had been averaging over 70 points offensively per game this season. At the end of the first quarter, the score was 12-4, Wildcats with 4 points.
Well, beyond the ball not dropping, you got to give the Tomcats credit because they kind of controlled the tempo of that first quarter. They held the ball for the last minute and a half of that quarter. They slowed down Neuqua's usually fast-paced game.
You know, Ben, you look at the difference between the first half and the second half of this game. Heading into halftime, Coach Sutton was interviewed, and he had said, you know, his guys were getting fouled on almost every single shot. Heading into the second half, they were certainly calling those fouls right away.
It was definitely a physical game kind of going into halftime. Neuqua was down 19-18 at the half, but they came out on a 5-0 run, and then all of a sudden East Aurora puts together a 12-0 run to go up 31-23, but going into the fourth quarter, it was 31-31, so it was anyone's game. I think the referees kind of took the game over a little bit more than I'd like to see. It's a championship game. You should probably let the kids play. And they were calling it balanced. A lot of fouls on East Aurora, a lot of fouls on Neuqua, but just a lot of fouls altogether. Just kind of let the kids play. It's not like they were overly physical, just a lot of hand checks and stuff like that.
Well, let's talk about that. Before going into overtime, towards the end of regulation, Neuqua Valley, they got into the bonus. They were heading to the free throw line, which a lot of people thought would be an advantage for Neuqua Valley. How was East Aurora able to combat that and keep that slight lead in the fourth quarter?
I think it's one person, that's Ryan Boatwright for East Aurora. He had 45 points in this game. He only had 10 points going into the fourth quarter. So he just kind of took over. He's able to drive and create. He either dishes it off or he can make the tough layups. So he was getting to the free throw line. I think he shot around 24 free throws in the game. But every time he would score, Neuqua would have maybe, you know, free throws at the other end, but he'd come back and make a layup.
You know, let's talk about Boatwright. Like you said, he made it to the free throw line a lot in this game. And it was really evident in overtime when he was fouled by Kyle Pembroke. The refs eventually called an intentional foul on Pembroke, sending Boatwright to the line for 2, and East Aurora, they get the ball back. It
was a big moment in the game. That's what I kind of talked about with them blowing the whistle a little bit too much in this game, I think. It was 59-57. Boatwright drove to the hole. And it's tough because it looks like Pembroke barely touches him, if anything. You don't see any shift in Boatwright's momentum going one direction or the other. And then the ref walks off, comes back in, calls the intentional foul. Kind of, you can see the shock in all the players' faces at that point. But that gave them 2 free throws in the ball, and then they went on to score the first 10 points of overtime, and that eventually led to a Tomcats win. But don't take anything away from East Aurora. They played a great basketball game. They played great in overtime. They definitely deserved it. I just think that was kind of a big foul at a big moment.
Could you feel it in the gymnasium? The Neuqua fans all throughout the game, loud, really cheering on their team. Were they kind of deflated after that point?
I think so, because it was just, you know, going into overtime, there was one offensive foul on East Aurora. And then Neuqua at the other end, Dwayne Evans got called for a moving screen. So it could have gone either way, but then once you get that layup, then you get the 2 free throws and the ball, it just kind of gave the momentum fully to East Aurora at that point.
Ben, Neuqua Valley coming off back-to-back sectional championships this year, not making it to the sectional semifinal game. Dwayne Evans, he's a senior, maybe the most decorated Wildcat basketball player of all time at that school. Did you talk to the players afterwards? Was there a sense of just utter disappointment?
We talked to a couple players afterwards. I think they see it as an unfulfilled season, but at the same time, they left it all out on the court. I mean, they had a great season, 3 losses. It seems like every time you cover Neuqua Valley, they'd win. So just kind of a tough way to see them go, but I know they have their heads high, and they know they did their best.
Well, Ben, let's move on to the Geneva Regional. Bennett Academy, another great team, won the East Suburban Catholic Conference this year. It's the first time they've done that in over 15 years. They beat Glenbard North by 10 points. They go on to win a regional championship, beating Downers Grove South by 2.
That was a close game, hearing from the guys that covered it. So, big 2-point win. David Sobolewski and Frank Kaminsky are 2 prime players for that team. They can work the inside or the outside game. But at the same time, 6'10" Kaminsky can go out and shoot the 3. So I think Bennett's a dangerous team. That was their 14th straight win.
You know, and it kind of surprisingly, Frank Kaminsky scoring 39 points in that 80-70 win over Glenbard North. Did it surprise you?
It doesn't really surprise me so much because we know he has great athletic ability with his size. But I think on a night, if David's not shooting well for Bennett, I think Kaminsky can, pick up the game, and they can go either way. But they've also got Dylan Fudd and Matt Parisi that can put some points on the board too. So I think Bennett's got a lot of balance, and they have a chance to beat East Aurora coming up on Wednesday.
Well, you talk about David Sobolewski, and he had 41 points against Downers Grove South. He had 2 free throws with 9 seconds left to kind of seal the game for the Red Wings. Seems like all season he kind of dictates the tempo of Bennett's offense. Heading into the sectional semifinal game against East Aurora, do you feel like Sobolewski will be able to dictate the tempo going against another great premier guard in Ryan Boatwright?
I think it's tough to kind of gauge it because we haven't really seen them play against each other, but talk about 2 guys that in the championship games put up more than 40 points. If one guy's going to be hot, one guy's going to be cold, that might determine who wins the game, but that's where you're going to have the people step up around them to really give them a chance to win.
All right, Ben, heading over to the Waubonsie Valley Regional, the Warriors, they lost in the play-in game against West Aurora. West Aurora went on to beat Naperville North before losing to Oswego East in the championship game.
The game against North was a surprise because Naperville North had a great season all year. I think they had around 20 wins this year. They beat West Aurora multiple times going into that game, so I think everyone had pinned it as, oh, Naperville North's going to run over West Aurora, but that's what's so exciting about the playoffs is any team can beat any team.
In Oswego East, they got a star guard in Jay Harris, who led the team to a victory over Neuqua Valley just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, some people might question that game just because Dwayne Evans didn't play, but others would say, no, it's a game. We played, we won. So Jay Harris, great guard. I think he had around 39 points that game. Oswego East, good record, good team. They can make some noise here as the playoffs continue. Well,
sectional semifinal matchup, Oswego East, Tuesday night, 7:30 at Neuqua Valley. They're going to be taking on Glenbard East. They're ranked number 6 by the Chicago Sun-Times in the state. They have a 26-1 record.
As you said, Glenbard East, a one-loss team. They're only lost to Curry earlier this year. I think it was by maybe 1 or 2 points, but a good team. They're very similar to Neuqua Valley. They have 4 or 5 guys that can score or come off the bench, led by a guard, Zach Miller. He gets everything going with the offense. So Glenbard East is a tough team. They put up a lot of points on the board, and you never know what's going to happen. But I think they'll have the edge over Oswego East just for pure numbers of people that can do stuff for the team.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, thanks for all your insight. It should be exciting to see how the Neuqua Valley Sectional shapes out.
Yep, thanks, Jeff.
Well, stay tuned as we take a look at the Naperville North track and field team after this short break.